Hey, it's Liz D'Alto, and this is the Untamed the Wild Soul Woman podcast. From body image, sex, spirituality, money and relationships, to motherhood, creativity, business, communication, and desire, Untamed the Wild Soul Woman is the place to come for real stories and powerful advice to help you reclaim and redefine womanhood in the 21st century. Liz D'Alto here, your host for Untamed the Wild Soul Woman, a conversation series with very powerful and inspiring women on how they do things their own way and how they decided that the way that we're all told we're supposed to do it just isn't really for them. And I'm super excited. I think I've said that for every interview. Can you tell I'm very excited for all of these? I've hand-selected fantastic women. I have Denise Duffield-Thomas with us today. And Denise is someone I've known for years. We met through Marie Forleo's community at an event, I think in New York in 2011. But why I really care so much about Denise is she is branded as Lucky Bitch, which number one, I love the brand, I love the boldness. But number two, she's this amazing money bootcamp course that I took 2 years ago in 2012. And it literally completely changed my relationship to money. And that's after reading like books and books and books and like working on my relationship to money for a really long time to have something be so effective. And I've revisited the exercises so many times. So Denise is amazing, and we are lucky enough to have her here today. Hi, Denise.
Yay! Thanks for having me, Liz. I can't believe it was 2 years ago that you joined the boot camp.
Isn't that
That's
so
gone
crazy?
quick.
It's
Yeah.
been so fun to like be in your community and watch it grow. So I'm sure some of the women watching are entrepreneurs. I'm sure many are not. So other fun fact about Denise, how old is Willow now?
She's almost 10 months old.
Cool. So Denise is a relatively new mom. And I was sure to make sure I had a number of moms in the series because I am not a mom. And I know for sure you ladies have perspectives on things that I probably don't. So the first question I've been opening up with everyone, Denise, is what do you love about being a woman?
I've been thinking about this, right? Because I think maybe about 6, 8 years ago, I had a real crisis in confidence around being a woman. And I remember saying to my hubby, I said, this sucks. Like, next time around, you be the woman, I'll be the man. Like, this experiment has not worked out. I am not enjoying this at all. And I think, having a baby has shifted my perspective on that. I think a lot of people, we have some sort of shift where it's having a baby or we do some sort of internal work or whatever. And for me, I really started thinking about it when I found out I was having a girl. And the truth is, when I found out, I cried for like 2 days because, again, that whole feeling of not wanting to be feminine, not wanting to be female. And I was like, I want a boy. Boys are so much less complicated than girls, and I don't want the drama of having a girl. And so when I had my scan and she was like, you're having a girl, I was like, no. But from that day, I really started to shift. And I think I became way more passionate about the power that women have in our society. And also I started to notice a lot of the unfairness in society and a lot of, that everyday sexism that happens. And I think it was from there I really started to appreciate being a woman and what we have the power to do and the power to change. So I think my short answer to that is that I love as women we really do the transformational work, and we're really good at self-inquiry, and I think we're all about transformation in so many ways.
I like that. And I mean, I think it's definitely true. And so when I reached out to you about doing this interview, one of the things I said that I would love to ask you about is how you found the courage and the boldness to brand yourself the way you have, because I also know you had many, many business ideas leading up to Lucky Bitch. And even if you're not an entrepreneur and you're watching this, courage is universal. It doesn't have to be to a business. It could be to absolutely anything. So no matter what Denise says, it'll be valuable here.
Yeah, I think I started out very generic. I was a very generic life coach, as in that I coached anybody on anything. And at that time, my branding was called The Inspired Life, and which is really nice, but it is kind of generic. There are a lot of people using very similar kind of languaging. And there was nothing that was distinguishing me from everyone else. And I was really afraid to be my normal self, myself that my friends would know of being kind of a bit cheeky, like a bit of a swear bear, loves laughing, loves kind of being maybe a little bit controversial. And I started doing little bits of it. Like I remember saying something about, how there's Movember for men to grow moustaches. So I was saying, oh, we could do Fanuary. And in the US, I know you say fanny for bum, but for us, fanny means vagina, right? So be careful when you use fanny around Australians. And so I was like, oh, we could do Fanuary and we could just, grow grow hair. And I remember one lady too, she was like, I can't believe you used the word vagina in a tweet. And she sent me a message to say, just to let you know, I'm just saying this because I want to look out for you. But if you use words like vagina in your business, people will think you're unprofessional and, you'll lose followers. And I remember at that time thinking, I felt a little chastised. And then on the other side of it, I was like, no, screw you, lady. Like, I am going to be who I want to be. And I remember talking to my business coach about my book that was coming out. And I said, I really want to call it Lucky Bitch, but I'm really scared about what people would say. And she's like, well, just go for it. And you know what? I don't say everyone should go controversial, and there's definitely downsides to using a word in your branding that some businesses consider as a curse word, definitely. But the principle of it is don't be afraid to be a little bit controversial. Don't be afraid to be yourself, because people will contact you and say, I think you should tone it down a bit, like with what you were saying too, like, oh, I don't think you should put pictures of yourself half naked on your website. Everyone's going to have an opinion, but it has to feel good for you, and it has to be in alignment with you, not because you think you should or everyone else is doing it, but because it actually is your true self in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And again, your context is business for this, but there's so many other contexts. It could even just be being your true self with your friends. And I'm sure you find this because I have as well. Like, I curse and I'll get the same emails as you. I even remember last January I sent out an email and the subject line of the email was New Year, New Vagina.
I love it.
I'm like, this is amazing. And I did. I got an email from a woman, and this was actually upsetting to me, not because I took it personally, but because it was a comment about using the word vagina, and she's like, I opened my email in front of my kids. And for me, I was like, vagina is not a curse word. Like, that is part of your body. That's a problem if you feel like vagina is an inappropriate word to say in front of a child. Like, so that's a whole nother, that kind of goes to that sexism. And that was an extreme case in which this was a woman who'd actually bought into it herself. So I think not even just in the context of business, but even in the context of relationships, because I know you've spoken about this too. When you decide to be aligned and to just be who you are without apology, there are just going to be some relationships that fall away.
Yeah. And, I don't want to, one of my best friends, she said to me, this is not you, this is not you. And I just was like, actually, this is more me than I've ever been, and we parted ways very soon after that because she wanted to keep on complaining about her job that she didn't like, and she wanted to keep on complaining in lots of ways. And we just weren't in alignment, and even now, like, we've got a few mutual friends and they're like, what happened? What happened? Tell me the gossip. And I'm like, there is none. There was just no alignment anymore, and that's okay. And that definitely will happen. For some people it will be their partner or it will be a friend, and don't be afraid of it. It's just growth. It's, and it's not that even that they're bad people. It's just literally, it's just not working anymore, and that's fine.
It's different. Yeah, because I had a relationship right this, and my last boyfriend, and we were growing, but we just grew in different directions. So it was very loving and mutual split, but it just was no longer a good fit. So how did you, and just this, there's no right or wrong way to do it, but I've now had this situation happen many times where you outgrow relationships. Was there a conversation, or was it just gradually, it was just less and less time together and you both kind of just knew?
Well, some of my friendships have been like that where it's just been a fade out. It's been
Yeah.
like, no, I don't really have time to hang out. It's been kind of excuses. This one was a spectacular cut.
Yeah.
And I think it had to be like that. And again, it will be really sad for some relationships. And I do feel for people who are going through it right now because it was really hurtful in some ways. But it was hurtful and it was a great sense of relief at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was mutual because, again, it's not like you're the enlightened one and they're the unenlightened one. You're enlightened in different ways. And, it's for the best sometimes that you're both not in each other's lives so you can both grow and go to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you for being willing to share that with us.
I'm
So,
gonna take my earrings off. Hang on.
sure.
I'm like, oh, they keep
12:52.
them dangling against stuff. No, it's okay. You can leave it in, man.
Oh, I was like, should we edit that out? Whatever.
No.
Cool. So, the next thing I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned earlier kind of having that struggle with like, oh, this being a woman sucks. But your business is feminine in nature because a lot of what you teach is manifesting, which a lot of that involves being receptive and open. So, and those are very feminine qualities in terms of if you want to label energy. So, I would love to know your evolution into that. How did you kind of stumble and bumble into it and get so friggin' good at it? Because I feel like you're so consistent in your practices, and I really admire that.
I am and I'm not. And I think that's the thing that I've probably embraced the most is imperfection. Especially over the last 2 years. Over the last 2 years, I've really gotten that you don't need to be perfect to manifest what you want. You don't have to be perfect before you're allowed to be wealthy. You can be completely flawed. You can be completely exactly as you are and have what you want. And a lot of us actually block what we want because we're waiting for the perfection, which is impossible. So maybe that's where there has been an evolution for me, and that's kind of a more softness and a bit. I've always been a bit laid back, but even more. I'm just like, wow, just let it flow and surrender, and it's going to be okay. And if we talk about like giving birth, I was in the whole lead up to having Willow. I just was kind of like, this is going to be fine. Like, and my sister-in-law had said to me, it's really not that bad. Like, it's really not that hard. And I just hung on to that. And now, when it comes to manifesting, that's the same message I'm giving everyone. I'm like, it doesn't have to be that hard. Like, it can be easy if you want it to be easy. Like, let's just make it easy. And I think if you go into things with that belief that it can flow, that's probably been my biggest evolution, not consciously around living in my feminine, but just a conscious thing of, I don't want life to be a drama. I don't want friends in my life who are into drama. I don't like situations that make me feel bad. I want a cruisy yet successful life.
Yeah.
And that's my philosophy on things. It's just like, it can be easy. Why not?
I love that. So for people who, that's a tough concept for some people to wrap their brain around because
Yeah.
a lot of people are just raised to struggle, right? That suffering is part of life, that it's just a given. And a lot of people are bogged down with like duty and obligation. So they might hear you say, let it be easy, and be like, easy for you to say, right? So if someone kind of has maybe a little bit of that stuff holding them back, what would you say to those people?
Yeah, well, I had it as well. I had a lot of stuff. I had a lot of family stuff to deal with. My family still is kind of a bit crazy, some of them. So here's my philosophy on that, right? You have to opt out. You have to unsubscribe. And I mean that in every possible way of the word, right? You have to unsubscribe from other people's drama. You have to unsubscribe from newsletters, or from websites that don't make you feel good. You have to unsubscribe from the influences around you because that helps, right?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is you have to change your external language. So that makes a
Yes.
huge difference.
That's a huge difference. So I'm just, if you see me, I'm taking a couple notes so I can
Yeah,
mark
go
down the
for it.
highlights of the conversation. All right, this is so big. There was someone posted something the other day. It was this great blog that said why I deleted your comment. And it was about how this man had left a rude comment on her blog, which, and again, so we're using this in context of maybe you don't have a blog, but I firmly believe that we teach people how to treat us. So if you have people in your life, and this completely aligns with what Denise is saying here, if you have people in your life who don't treat you well, in some way, shape, or form, you've participated in that. And by doing this curation that Denise is talking about, you get to gradually, or not so gradually, set boundaries. And Denise is friggin' killer with boundaries. And in fact, you give me permission to set more boundaries all the time. Like, I love the way you express yourself and the way you're so clear about this. So let's pivot a little bit into how do you go about setting boundaries? Has it been gradual, dramatic, both? Does it depend on the context?
Boundary setting has been completely gradual for me because, I wanted people to like me. I still want people to like me. And funnily enough, I don't want people to think I'm a bitch.
That is really funny.
Funny, right? Big one for me, not wanting people to think I'm a bitch. So, but I'm also an introvert. So I've had to learn things along the way around things that made me feel icky. And I know when I feel icky, and all introverts probably know this feeling, when I feel icky in my body, I have to just unsubscribe. I have to opt out. I have to just not be around it. So one thing for me was emails. Like emails used to just be such a energy suck, and it'd be people who wanted to pick my brain, or people who just wanted to tell me their stories, or even people who just wanted to tell me how my books changed their life. I had to cut that off because it would just really play with my emotions a lot. It'd be like, oh, this person loves me. Oh, this person hates me. Oh, I have to do, someone wants me to fix something on my site. Go away. It was just too much. So I don't get any emails anymore. My assistant takes care of that. So that's one example where you have to find something that makes you feel icky, that rankles in your body, that just makes you feel like shit, and find a solution for that. Yeah. And then you find the next one that creates that, and the next one, and the next one. And this whole thing about, haters, the reason why I don't read my fan mail, because if hate mail is just an opinion, well, then fan mail has to be just an opinion as well. Yeah. And so you can't believe all your good press, but disbelieve all your bad press, because there's outliers, right? There's be 3% of people who are your absolute crazed fans and think you can do no wrong. And then there'll be 3% of people who hate you irrationally. And then everyone else is in between. And so I've had to opt out of that. I'm just like, great, if people love me, if people hate me, it doesn't make a difference to my day-to-day life. So, that's, I guess, again, the short answer is just find the things that don't feel good and put a solution in place. Find the next thing that doesn't feel good. And it is a gradual process, because the first time you might put a boundary in place, if you're not used to it, you are going to feel like the biggest C word in the world. You will, and it will feel horrible, and then it will feel fine. And then you'll find the next one. And I really think that for women in business, our life is just going to be a series of awkward conversations around money. There'll be the business of being in business, which means that sometimes we're scared, sometimes we're elated, and I don't make that mean anything about myself anymore. It's just something to deal with, a boundary to put into place and move on.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I work with a lot of moms. Again, I don't have kids, but I've seen a lot of moms feeling even guilty about having boundaries with their kids, right? About, taking a little tiny bit of time just for themselves so they can survive and still feel like a human. So I think that's great. I love that idea of opting out. So how do you communicate these boundaries with people in so in your business, it sounds like there's systems in place. So that's easy because it's like out of sight, out of mind. How do you communicate with like people in your lives, like maybe like family or friends, when you're choosing to do these opt-outs? Because you can't always just like pretend you didn't see someone's text message or something like that. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, good question. Um, Interesting, right? Because half my family don't talk to the other half.
Oh, interesting.
There's some major, and I decided quite early on, not only do I have a different name to everyone else because I've got a hyphenated name, that was very deliberate. Mark and I wanted to create our own legacy. We wanted to create our own family unit. And so the thing for me is that's the important relationship. That's the most important relationship. And I don't subscribe to other people's drama in that because it's not welcome in my little relationship. So some of that is not caring so much. Like one of the things too is not caring about them giving you a pat on the head around your successes. Like when I wanted to tell someone in my family, I'd be like, oh, guess what? I did this in business. And they didn't give me the reaction that I was hoping for because they just did not get it. I would be really disappointed and then I'd feel resentful and angry. And now I'm like, who cares what my uncle thinks I do? I don't give a shit what he thinks I do. I'm just going to have that uncle-niece relationship with him, which is, see him every now and again. He doesn't need to know about my business. I don't need to get business validation from him. And once I got that, some of those relationships were much easier because I could just be like, oh, that's great. I don't need validation from him. He's just a person.
Yeah.
The other thing, a practical thing, is if there are people in your family who drive you crazy, whatever. One, you don't have to see them. Two, steer communication back to safe areas. So in my family, every Christmas we used to argue about marriage, like every Christmas, and it'd be like, well, and then my uncle would say something. This is my uncle I've got two uncles, so if any of them are ever listening to this, that hopefully they don't know, but why would they be listening to this? But they would say something like, I don't think gay people should adopt children, and a couple of years ago, that would be on for me. I'd be like, oh, really? Now I'm just like, oh, so what are you doing with blah, blah, blah? Oh, that's an interesting cricket bat you've got on your wall. Where did you get that from? Because I'm not invested in that relationship. I'm just not, and it does not bother me. And I prefer to have my little bubble be nice and not even worry. Now, if there's someone in your family like a sister or your mom or something like that you have to see, right? Try and minimize the time where you're just sitting around and they interrogate you. Turn it back on them, ask questions about them, or go to the movies with them. That's how you spend your time. You sit and you watch a movie together and then, you're done. Because only you can change how you feel about it and only you can protect your own little bubble of sanity, basically.
Yeah. I love that. And, it's funny. I love that you call it bubble. Sometimes I'll get off the phone with my mom and she'll be like, stay in your bubble. Because, I do the same thing. I curate a lot of my life because, there's just so much crap and we get to choose. And it's interesting because sometimes you'll hear people say, well, you're just out of touch with reality. Like, but I don't know how it is in Australia. Good. I create my own reality. I don't know how it is in Australia, but in the US, the news is just like a nightmare. It's just, I think it's really a tool to intimidate people, to stay in line, to be quite honest. Is it like that over there too?
It's not as extreme, but for sure. And I watched the news recently and it was just, like dead baby in a sewer and this person killed that person. I was just like, I don't need that in my life. And honestly, you find out stuff. If something big happens in the world, you find it out. But also you can choose what analysis you digest. So if there's something that's really big that's happened in the world, watching it on a 24-hour news cycle isn't going to give you the best analysis of the situation anyway, if that's important to you. You can read something well-written, that some very smart journalist has digested and you can find out if that's important to you, because some people say, if you don't watch the news, you're an uninformed person, which I I don't agree with. But again, you can choose how you digest that information. You do not have to digest it on a 24-hour sensationalist news cycle.
Yeah.
Because for most of us who are into transformational work, it affects us. It affects our bodies, and it affects our ability to show up in the world and to serve people because we feel so crap. It starts to we really take it on. So yeah, again, that's the choice thing, isn't it? Choose
Yeah.
what you want to take in.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of people, I know a lot of clients that I work with are just absolutely stunned when I tell them it's their choice. It's like the first time
Yeah.
anyone's ever been like, wait a minute, like I don't have to just be part of the system or the culture or the conditioning, on the micro level and in their own family's culture, right? But then the macro, of course, in the larger communities that they're part of. So I love that. Now, all of the stuff in the boot camp course, which I love, is also in your book for not free, but whatever is the price of the book. So I want to ask you about some of that. So if people are curious, they can go check out the book and check out your other stuff. And I've been doing this recently. One of my favorite things that you teach people is decluttering. Can you please tell us why in transformation
Yes.
decluttering is such an important first step?
Well, it is pretty much the first step because you've got to find out what's there, what do you need to declutter. And so there's some general things that you can always do. I always think when you're stuck, like clean your room and see what shifts. But if it's something specific, most of the time it's specific beliefs that you need to declutter. So, it can be really practical. It could be either from I want to have a big month. Say you set a goal to make $10,000 in 1 month. Well, the very first thing I want people to do usually is to go, okay, well, what beliefs do I have around this goal? Is there anything that I need to declutter around this goal? Like, do I not believe that I can do it? Do I believe that people who make that kind of money are greedy or unethical? Or do I believe that I'm going to have to burn myself out to do it? So you always start there because it's valuable information. And this is the thing that in personal development, it's like taboo sometimes to think about the negative because they're like, oh no, if you focus on your debt, you'll just create more of it. No, sometimes you actually have to put that awareness on there and go, okay, well, thinking of debt, let's declutter something around this. Maybe you have to open your credit card statements. Maybe you have to look at some of the beliefs you have that got you into debt. That's going to help you get out of debt, not being in denial about it and just being like, I'm so wealthy. No, you're not. You're in debt. let's look at it honestly and let's deal with it because you will get out of it much quicker.
Yeah, so I love that because for many years I was the person who was like, I'm just not going to look at it. And that's why I'm still repairing my credit score. This is like before online banking years ago when I was running one of my first businesses. The bills would just be stacked on my desk. I wouldn't look at them. Eventually I'd open something and be like, that was due 2 months ago. So I agree with you on that. I love the point about it's okay to look at the negative. So Mike and I had this conversation that he turned into this crazy viral blog post a few weeks ago about using gratitude as a bypass for emotions.
I loved it. I read it. Yeah, I read it. It was great.
How do you see this happening in the personal development world, even in your own community?
Well, not so much in my community because I think we've kind of cultivated an honesty level, in there. And people know that, we call them unintended negative consequences, like what's the worst part of your goal coming true? Because if there wasn't anything bad that you were afraid of, you'd have the goal. You'd have the goal by now. So it's just valuable information. And I see things like gratitude. It's like icing on the top, right? It's just one of those things that you can do in the moment to make yourself feel good, but not one tool is going to be the be all and end all, and I think you can use a mix of the positive and negative ones. And a great example of that is emotional freedom technique, which is a tapping modality. And some people get stuck on it because you do have to say the negative stuff out loud. So it's like, even though I'm deeply in debt, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And people freak out and they're like, I don't want to say that out loud. I don't want to admit it. But it's like, well, you're embodying that anyway. Your body knows that it's in debt.
Yes.
So you're just saying the worst thing, like even if this worst thing was true about myself, I deeply and completely love and accept myself, because I think that is the life-changing thing. Deep and utter love and acceptance, not because you're perfect, because actually you're completely imperfect.
Yeah.
And, you're completely a flawed human being. And despite all of that, you deeply and completely love and accept yourself. That is powerful because then you can just go, oh, well, you know what? It's kind of normal sometimes to not want to open my credit card statements. Of course, I don't want to open them because I'm in debt and that feels bad. Okay, I can, release that charge. I can actually feel it. It's like, ugh. I'm not actually in debt anymore, which is good. So it's like, ugh. But, I can, this is just normal. Just because I have debt doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. And that's the first thing I say to people when they confess to me that they're scared in business or something like that. Because I'm like, we're all fucking scared. Just because you've got fear, that's not a sign in itself that you're not meant to be successful in business. That's just the business of being in business for a woman.
Yeah.
That's just normal. Everyone's got it. And perfection isn't the goal.
Yeah.
Because if you make perfection the goal, you will always feel stuck and you won't be able to move forward because it's an impossible goal. And you don't even need it.
No.
You just have to be consistent.
Right, because that's also going to
before you
be
have to be
so subjective, right? Because what's perfect to one might not be perfect to another. So, and I think, I love what you just said about fear and also about tapping. So 3 things. You said so many great things there. Let me pause and unpack a few of them. So we actually have in the series as well, Jess Ortner from the Tapping Solution. And I'm pumped because I learned tapping from you. And what I love is you were kind of like, listen, I don't really know why this works, but it friggin' works, so just do it. And I'm like, cool, all I need to know. But I know some people do love to understand like the inner workings and the nitty gritty. So that's why Jess will be here. Check out her interview if you want to know more about that. But the thing about perfection, so we just said that, perfection is going to be different for everyone. And I don't know if you're into any of Brene Brown's work, but she talks about perfection. That's just another thing to hide behind, right? It's a reason to stall, which brings me to the other thing that you said about fear. One of my pet peeves about the personal development, transformational, even the spiritual community is people forget that we're human. Like we're not friggin' Buddha. Like we have fear. Like fear informs us as humans. Like it's just never going to go away. So that's kind of like a fruitless goal as well. And whenever I see people saying things like, be fearless, I'm like,
Yeah, you don't need to be. And also, what's scary for you in business today, in a month, you might not even remember it.
Yeah.
And so something else will be scary and it will be something that you can handle. So don't almost worry about things that you don't need to worry about yet in business, because you just focus on the things that you're working on right now. Like focus on the things that scare you today. Tomorrow they won't be as scary, but there'll be new stuff. And that's good, right? That's a good thing, because that's, again, the business of being human. Because, we make up stories about it. It's like, well, this person wants a refund because I'm a terrible person and, I'm a horrible person and what I did is terrible. It's like, no, that's just actually the business of being in business. And you can totally handle it. The first time will be scary, like the first unsubscribe, and then it won't be scary so much, or if you're in a job, the first time you talk to your boss about something or your first time you say something to a co-worker, it's scary, and then it will be less so, and then the next thing will be scary.
Yeah, actually, something I quote you on. I quote you on this in conversation, in my own videos and stuff all the time that I love. I don't remember if it was in the book or one of your blog posts once, was just new level, new devil. I love that. Well,
I heard that from David Nagel.
Cool.
And I've changed it to be new level, old devil. Because it's the same stuff that happens again and again. It's usually the same fears, but they just show up in a different way. It's fascinating.
So what were some of yours? I know most of us, we have our consistent ones. I'll tell you, one of my consistent ones is fear of success. That's mine. I'm like, what happens if I'm like outrageously powerful and wealthy and successful and I get everything I want? Some people are like, I wish that was my fear. What are some of yours?
Well, one of my beliefs around money is that you have to work hard to make money. And so that showed up for me right at the beginning of my business. And that shows up for me even now, even though I make so much more money. It shows up in slightly different ways. Definitely a fear of success as well. I remember, this is so funny, ruminating in bed the other day about the fact that I didn't want to get up at 3 a.m. to like do an Oprah show. Like, it's like Oprah hasn't even asked me to do it. Like, Oprah doesn't even know I exist, right? And I'm like, what if she asks me to do a show and I have to get up at 3 a.m. and like, it's just not going to work with my lifestyle. Like I was worrying about it.
That's hilarious.
I know it's like, oh, it's going to be so hard to say no to Oprah. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, deal with one thing at a time.
So, what's so amazing about that is I bet women watching this, so that might not be your scenario, right? Worrying about saying no to Oprah, but it's something else. There's something that you've played out so many steps and future tripped in your head that you're putting energy of stress and anxiety into your body for things that are completely irrational. So, how do you cut those things off? Like, at what moment did you notice you're like, what am I doing here? And then how do you kind of switch out of that thought pattern?
Yeah, so I mean, just being aware of your thoughts, and it's like, yeah, of course, being aware of them, but sometimes even just saying it out loud, even just talking about it to someone else and go, dude, I just had the dumbest thing. And I think that's why everyone needs to have a mastermind in some way, or a posse. I call it Lady Mafia. So you can go, hey guys, I just caught myself thinking this thing and it's really dumb. And that releases so much of it because, words have power, and
Yes.
we dissipate that power sometimes when we just recognize it and acknowledge it and just go, yep, that's all good. And sometimes sometimes it's a mantra. So I use mantras a lot
Me
to
too. Yes, yes,
interrupt
yes,
patterns.
yes.
So one that I use a lot is I serve, I deserve. And this one comes up for me when I feel like I'm sure a lot of other women relate to this, when I think I'm not giving enough, like I feel guilty, or I feel like I should be doing more, or I'm not giving enough to my community and I wish I could give them this, or I didn't do that interaction better, or just that stupid stuff. It kind of is that, I guess, low level guilty feeling that we
Yeah.
kind of live
Yeah.
with sometimes. And or when it's when we're taking a break, right? It's like, I'm just going to sit here and read this book. Oh, but I should be working on my book, or I should be doing this, or I should be doing that. And so I just stop it and go, I serve, I deserve. And to be honest, what I really say is, I'm motherfucking serve, I'm motherfucking deserve.
Yeah. I'm with you.
And that's what I say to myself, to remind and go, I am enough, I give enough, and I'm allowed to receive and return.
Yeah. I love that. One of mine, I say, I've been using this one for years. I am enough. I have enough. I do enough. Because I was a chronic not doing enough, not doing enough. I remember when I lived in New York City, just like feet on the pavement, running around, trying to always do more so I could have more, and that was not the proper formula for me. So I want to talk a little bit more. This will probably be our last topic, and I feel like you're great at this. So I love that you mentioned mantra. That's something I use in Wild Soul Movement as well. Every week there's a mantra, and then the movement is actually a physical expression of the words. So it's like full friggin' embodiment of these mantras. And but the power of language. I think some people, we probably have a range, right? People who are new to personal development, people who have been doing work for a really long time. How do you shift your language? If you're someone who's used to complaining, and so for you and I, we're not complainers, right? So I don't do that anymore. So sometimes it's hard for me to get back into that mindset of like, what caused me to do that back then? But we have it probably a lot more in our communities. How do you teach people, or how do you address that, even with people in your immediate life too?
For sure. And even before, when I was giving the example of debt, even saying out loud, like, I have debt, it's safe, it was really hard for me to say because I don't have debt anymore. And I think one of the reasons why I've been able to shift things so much is because I was so conscious of some of the words I was saying. So, for example, around money, saying I can't afford it.
Yes.
I made a conscious effort to not say that anymore. And one of the things I did, which I think Tony Robbins talks about, is maybe having like an elastic band around your wrist. And when you catch yourself saying it, you just give yourself a flick. And, even now, like I can't even say some things out loud because I've just trained myself to go, just take a beat and go, that's not true. And it can feel really forced at the start, because you're like, but I am in debt, or I have this thing, or I really can't afford it. And I just made it, rather than say, I am so wealthy, because I didn't feel wealthy. I'd be like, I choose to spend my money in great ways or responsible ways or whatever I needed to just say at the time, rather than saying I can't afford that, I'd say I choose not to spend my money on that right now.
Yeah, because
And it
that's true.
felt more empowering. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And and it could then translate into to an action where you go into a shop. I used to scan the rack, look at the tag, decide if I could afford it first, then look at the dress to see if I liked it. And I wouldn't even try it on, try dresses on first. And so changing my language from I can't afford it to I choose how I spend my money. Then I made myself go into a shop, practice discernment and go, is there anything in here that I would like? And then if there was something, I'd try it on and then I would look at the price tag. And often it wasn't as expensive as I thought, but I wouldn't have looked at it before because I'd already decided that I couldn't afford it. And I think that made a huge, huge shift because practicing discernment is so incredibly powerful because you might not want that. And I think I had a thought when I was broke that when I was rich, which I am rich, I'm just going to own it, that I would want to have expensive handbags. And then I've got the money and I'm like, that's not me. I choose not to spend my money, or I'm conscious about how I spend my money. And so that mantra served me when I was broke and it serves me now.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, wow, I don't have to choose something just because I think that's how a rich person would have a handbag. I don't have to choose that because I think people would be impressed. I actually get to choose what I like. And I did that recently where my husband bought me a Vivienne Westwood purse for my birthday last year. And every time I looked at that purse, I was like, just not me. It's just not me. And then recently I went, oh, I have to get rid of this purse because it's not me. It was what I thought the rich me would like. And I ended up getting a purse that was maybe like $60, and I like it. It's me. It's what I would choose to have regardless of the money.
Yeah. I like that a lot because there are all these symbols, right? And again, this kind of goes to the conversation that's come up in most of these interviews around what's culture, what's conditioned, but what's actually me. And I love that you're making
For
that
sure.
point. I also really love your emphasis on using language that's true. So this is one of the reasons why I'm a big proponent of mantras, not affirmations. Because to me, a mantra is true. Like saying, I am enough, I have enough, I do enough, is true. If it wasn't true, I wouldn't say it. But affirmations, which you've kind of referenced in the same cheeky way I would do it, is like sitting in front of a vision board with all these things that you want and just going, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. When in the back of your head, you know that like it's tough for you to spend your rent, to pay your rent, So
Yeah, for sure.
I love that discernment that you made there because you also said this earlier, your body knows what's actually true. So So, and maybe I learned this from you because I do this, exactly what you just said. I'll be saying something, I'll be like, let me find the what's actually true here. This is also a way I've learned to communicate with people around boundaries. Like if I don't want to do something, I'll never make something up because it's not true. So I'll say what's true. Sometimes I'll just say, I can't do that with no explanation because that's just the truth.
Yeah. That is really powerful to think of it like that is what's true. Like again, let's look at the debt, for example. It could be I like the mantra is it's safe because that's kind of getting, you sort of going, wow, it's safe for me to open my credit card statements. Like nothing bad is going to happen to me if I open my credit card statements. And then it gives you the power to look and to act. It's
Yeah.
safe for me to whatever. I love that as a mantra too.
I love those too because I feel like there's also permission with that, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not saying you're going to love the way you feel when you open your credit card statement. You're just saying it's safe. You're not going to die. Most of the time, you're really just saying you're not going to die.
Honestly, Liz, that's right. Because I think a lot of us, that feeling of fear is so real. Like it really does feel like we're going to die if we tell someone no. Like our body doesn't know the difference. Our body thinks it's incredibly unsafe to tell, a client, I'm sorry, you can't do that. Like it does feel like we're going to die. So you're right.
Yeah. This is fun. So is there anything under the topic of Untame the Wild Soul Woman, is there anything like super wild about you that you feel like you haven't gotten a chance to express that you would like to?
You know, I think part of really embracing who you really are, I think I've really embraced the fact that I'm a very like laid back, even tempered person. And I'm okay with that because I think I used to veer wildly between like super enthusiastic, oh my God, and like, hermit entrepreneur, get away from me. And I'm okay now to be the fact that, I'm not particularly wild. Like, my life is kind of drama free. Dare I say it, sometimes boring. I don't know. So I actually, the five rhythms dance kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I actually went one weekend and I was like really having fun kind of unleashing, my wild woman. And I completely fucked my neck and back because I just spent this whole weekend like going like this. And then like I had to go to chiropractor for like 2 weeks. And so I'm okay now. Like I think when I was a teenager, I was kind of like, I feel like I'm kind of like around 40. Like I've always felt like I've been kind of older than I am. So, I guess my wild woman secret is that I'm actually just quite even tempered.
I love it.
And that's great. I love it.
The thing though, I think about you that is wild is that boldness, is that courage to face these things that a lot of people avoid. So it might not mean that you're out in the world being like flamboyant or loud or like a maniac like I am sometimes. But you really really own who you are. And it's been so fun to see as you've more and more owned who you are, how your business has just like friggin' exploded. And it seems easy and effortless, even though I know you do bust your ass.
It's, that's a tricky one, right? Because it is kind of easy in a lot of ways, but it's only because I've embraced that imperfection.
Yeah.
And when people say to me, wow, you really must practice what you preach. And I think, yeah, sometimes, like that's all it takes. It doesn't take all day, every day. It just takes like consistent sometimes. People go, well, you must do EFT every day. And I go, sometimes I do.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sometimes I just do it once and that's enough. Or, they go, you must be so organized. I'm like, sometimes I am. Sometimes I'm not. So it's just kind of like, I think it's important to say stuff like that. It's just like, I'm just kind of doing what I'm doing. You do what you do. It will work. Just be consistent with it. You don't have to be perfect.
I love that. I love it so much. So Denise, thank you so much. Your website, is it your name or is it Lucky Bitch? I'm blanking on that right now.
It's luckybitch.com.
Luckybitch.com, great. And the book is on Amazon. You can get that. I love Denise's courses, especially if you are an entrepreneur. Her stuff is so great because she's done it. She's been building her business for years. And I will also say this, one of my freaking favorite things about Denise is she talks about the things that other people don't talk about. She talks about the failures. She details like offers that worked, offers that didn't. And that's just, I think in the social media culture that we live in, a lot of people are all about putting out the highlight reel, not the what's really going on reel. And I think you're really great at sharing both sides.
Thank you. Well, again, that's why I call my business Lucky Bitch, because from the outside, when you're successful, whether it's, health, relationships, money, whatever, people will think you're just lucky. Like they will. They'll be like, oh, but it's all right for you because, you don't have to work at it. And actually, I don't think you have to work really, really hard all the time. But, I think success comes from intention and meeting the universe halfway. Yeah. And I think it's important to share, the real stuff behind the scenes. And I think that's why, doing stuff like this, Liz, where you've pulled together, so many amazing women, it's going to show people listening. It's like, oh, well, they can do it. I can do it.
Yeah, that's such a thing. Because there's so much separation gets created, not always intentionally. Sometimes we just assume that people are better than us, whatever the hell that even means. And, we're all just here doing our thing. So Denise, thank you so, so much. Everyone, go find Denise, check her out, especially if money is your thing. And again, you don't even have to be an entrepreneur. Money, like one of the things I love Denise says too, is that like money issues are pervasive. It doesn't matter if you grew up with it, without it. If your parents were good with it, you weren't. Like everyone has stuff around their money. So Denise is one of my favorite resources for all things healing your relationship with money. So, all right. Well, I did hear at some point that Willow woke up. So I'm going to let you get back to your baby and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Because I get all the time people like, oh, you're so amazing and stuff, and I'm always like, oh, thanks, but now I just pause and I'm like, thank you, because actually I read a great thing about this, that if with the person giving the compliment, if you just kind of oil slick it makes them feel crappy, because they're just giving you a compliment and you're like, oh, you're just dismissing what they are feeling too. So really giving it and receiving it, you should really receive it and hold it in your heart.